Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being the music journalism site, links are in the description down below, and we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Queens of the Stone Age, and it's The Way You Used to Do, so I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. So going into this brand new track, I must admit I'm pretty darn excited because I've been a fan of Queens of the Stone Age for a fairly long time at this point. The whole stoner rock and alternative rock flavours that they managed to incorporate into their naturally bluesy sound really creates an often varied and different listen. Obviously they're one of the most individualized bands around at the moment, so should we see what I thought of this brand new track regardless? Well, I thought it was just okay, and I must admit I'm a little bit disappointed by it. I just found it lacking instrumentally, and although there aren't any glaring flaws here per se, I just found it a touch irritating, to be honest with you. They've gone for an almost rockabilly sound this time around, similar to what you'd usually hear from bands like the Arctic Monkeys, especially recently. But for me, it just didn't really connect with Hom's voice at all, and it just lacked that sort of big climax point, and, you know, hold your innuendos to yourself. It basically felt as if the whole track was building and stemming up to this big and bolstered finale. Again, hold your innuendos to yourself, but instead we just continued on the same themes being repeated over and over again, with a very thin instrumentation leading the way, or rather leading those themes. It cuts me pretty deep to say this, but I just couldn't get into it. When it comes to the production of this track, I heard that Mark Ronson is the man behind this new album, and that seemed like a bit of an odd call from the start to me. I know he's had great success with Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars in the past, but he's never really showed an inkling of what he could do with, say, like a rock outfit, and for me it kind of showed this time around, since there are some elements that are a little too clean and a little too similar to usual sort of pop production, and others that felt a little more ragged, as if they weren't done properly. I thought the percussion lacked a lot of impact and eventual wholesomeness that was needed for this mix anyway, and I felt the kick had to fill the low ground a little more, and the snare just had to cut into the foreground a little bit more. It was so background worthy. I thought the bass was functional at best, but it didn't really possess that natural twang that you really want to hear from a track like this, especially when the mid ground is quite empty. You need something from that low ground to really step up and be the sort of driving force behind it all. The guitar tones are just sort of purposely sort of thin and trebly and really overdriven, but they never escalate, and they're so far apart, you know, in the sort of panning sense of mind, that the track was largely left empty in the mid ground, as I've already said, or right down the middle anyway. The vocals are okay though, and I liked how they've been left relatively untampered with, but that's not enough for me. Musicality wise, the song doesn't really offer anything new or different after the first 30 seconds or so. Once you've heard those 30 seconds and hit that 30-second point, there isn't much point listening to the rest of this track, because you've already seen, or rather heard, everything you're going to get out of this track, and for a track that's over 4 minutes long, that's not a good thing. The guitar progression / jingles only change once throughout the entire runtime, and that's for a little sort of 10-second segment where there's a tiny bit of decoration added, and that's the only decoration we get throughout the entire track. Otherwise they're just static, they're stagnant, and they stay the same throughout the whole 4 minutes, and the song just doesn't have too much to offer everywhere else as well. The bass lines are a little bit dull to me and didn't really wade in with the impact that I thought they would. I thought they'd cover a lot more of the stereo field as soon as they cut in, but they didn't. The percussion felt a little bit redundant to me, as I've already said, a little bit background worthy, never really adding to the transitions fills wise, and never really pushing the mix forward with any innovative drum sequences, and the vocals also seemed really disjunct over a track which already was a little bit thin, I guess. There wasn't really this catchy go-to hook for this track, and for a track that doesn't really go on any tangents or vary at all, that's a bit of a bad thing. Not that this track is bad per se, like bad, but there just isn't a single sequence here that is, you know, really pulling me in, and I think that's always a bad thing anyway. Lyrically, the track is pretty strong in this department, as they usually are when it comes to this group's releases. I think the delivery and dramatization helped a lot, but the melody did sort of let the lyrics down a little bit. So all in all, I am a bit disappointed by this track, but I am by no means sort of letting this track sour this new album. It's just a track that, you know, could be a one-off, so who cares about it really? And before I forget about this track, yeah, hold off the clapping next time. There's way too much clapping in this track. It felt like it was giving it itself a standing ovation for the entire 4 minutes. So I gave it a G rating of 4 out of 10, which is slightly below average. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, comment what you think in the comment section down below. I'd like to know your favorite Queens of the Stone Age tracks, albums, releases, whatever, or even Josh Homme's, you know, what his favorite project is. He's been in enough by now. Subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye-bye.